This is a paid advertisement for PH Law.
Welcome to our program. For those of you who are just joining us, I'm Tony Noakes, and with me today is Dr. Wendy Walsh. On today's program, we're discussing the injuries caused by Joule and other e-cigarettes and vaping devices. So, Dr. Wendy, what can you tell us about e-cigarettes and the potential danger they present?
Well, Tony, e-cigarettes, brands like Joule, have gained in popularity over the past 10 years. In fact, the market for e-cigarettes is so strong that Marlboro maker Altria has made a $12.8 billion investment in Joule, the most prominent manufacturer of the product. Now, 10 years is a relatively short period of time since the product's introduction, so researchers have yet to determine with clear certainty the long-term health impact of e-cigarettes and vaping devices. But there are serious concerns our viewers should be aware of. Concerns, for instance, about nicotine addiction, nicotine poisoning, seizures, stroke, heart or lung and mental health problems. It's been alleged in legal actions filed by users that these problems may be related to the use of Joule and other vaping devices.
Well, those are serious problems for sure. So can you tell our viewers more about e-cigarettes and vaping devices and their connection to the health issues you've just mentioned?
Well, Tony, the use of Joule and other e-cigarettes and vaping devices involve inhaling vaporized liquid instead of the chemicals found in tobacco. So that's the good news. The bad news is that they also contain a number of other ingredients that are problematic and potentially dangerous that are not in cigarettes. As a result, studies question both the safety of extended e-cigarette use and its effectiveness in helping cigarette smokers break the habit altogether. Now, the reality is that the lasting effects of using a Joule or other e-cigarette or vaping device really aren't well known since they're relatively new devices. But what is known is that the addictive properties of e-cigarettes like Joule are creating major addiction issues and other serious problems for a growing number of users. And unfortunately, the fastest growing segment of users are high school age minors. Their use has increased by 75% in just 1 year from 2017 to 2018.
Dr. Wendy, that's an incredible increase in use by teenage kids. Why is that?
Well, most people don't start smoking later in life, Tony, and the tobacco industry knows that if they don't get a customer when they're in adolescence, they likely will never be a customer. A big part of the reason for this increase in vaping by teenagers is that the companies making these products are alleged to have intentionally focused advertising on young people. In the case of Joule, the company's website likened the Joule devices to, get this, the iPhone of e-cigs. You know how teenagers like their iPhones? It made them seem like a cool, fashionable item to own or use. They also gave their flavor pods names that some feel are more enticing to children, such as Cool Mint, Fruit Medley, and Creme Brulee. Obviously, this marketing approach to impressionable teenagers is very concerning, especially given the California study that found children who used Joule and other e-cigarettes are 4 times more likely to become conventional cigarette smokers than those who don't use them at all.
Wow. So the use of Joule and other e-cigarettes and vaping devices isn't just potentially dangerous to their health now, but it increases the likelihood of teens becoming cigarette smokers later?
That's what the studies are showing us. Not the result you would hope for given the proven risk that regular cigarette smoking presents to smokers.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more, Dr. Wendy. Now, you mentioned earlier that there are ingredients in Joule and other e-cigarettes that are potentially dangerous for consumers. So can you tell us a little more about that?
Sure, Tony. Well, when you consider the promotional efforts being put behind Joule and other e-cigarettes, most people might be surprised to know how potentially dangerous some of their ingredients are. One ingredient, for instance, in e-cigarettes is propylene glycol, which is used to maintain moisture in the flavor pods to provide users with a smoother inhale. Researchers have found that this ingredient, when inhaled over a period of time, can cause acute and chronic respiratory problems like wheezing and tightness in the chest. It can also cause sleep-related problems. Now, other ingredients that would surprise most users are that e-cigarettes also contain heavy metals like lead and nickel. A recent study by the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine found that people who use e-cigarettes may be inhaling dangerous levels of these metals that can poison the body and potentially cause cancer, heart conditions, brain damage, and other health concerns.
Dr. Wendy, that is important information for our viewers to hear, especially those who have developed any of the health issues you've just mentioned. Now, you haven't mentioned the use of nicotine in Joule and other e-cigarettes. So how does nicotine play into the risk of smoking e-cigarettes?
Tony, nicotine is the most addictive property in all cigarettes, whether they're electronic or conventional cigarettes. It naturally occurs in tobacco, but it's added to e-cigarettes to imitate the effect of a traditional cigarette, and unfortunately is just as addictive in that form. The surprising thing is the concentration of nicotine in e-cigarettes. For example, in the popular Joule e-cigarette, the pod contains 59 milligrams of nicotine, which is double the concentration of nicotine found in other e-cigarettes. This is especially troubling given Joule's heavy marketing to teens and young people.
So aside from the addiction issues nicotine presents in Joule and other e-cigarettes, are there other health issues caused by nicotine in addition to the potential respiratory and metal-related side effects that you just mentioned?
Yes, Tony, there are. Studies indicate that nicotine is not only addictive, but it also has an impact on memory, attention span, and cognition, especially in young people. In fact, studies indicate that smoking at a young age can lead to diminished psychomotor skills later in life, as well as a variety of other mental and behavioral disorders. Now, some other health issues reported include seizures and convulsions suffered by Joule and other e-cigarette users. Again, in many cases, these are young adult users and teenagers. In fact, in one 2018 study by the National Academy of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine, it stated that there's conclusive evidence that intentional or accidental exposure to e-liquids can result in adverse health effects, including but not limited to seizures, anoxic brain injury, vomiting, and lactic acidosis. People who have suffered these seizures after using Joule and other e-cigarettes claim the high concentration of nicotine salts in the e-liquid in pods contributed to their severe reaction.
Dr. Wendy, those are some very serious side effects. What are the risks are e-cigarette users facing?
Well, unfortunately, there are a number of other risks Joule and other e-cigarette users are facing. One of the most serious is the possibility of a vape explosion caused by a defective battery. Vaping devices are operated by small, rechargeable lithium-ion batteries, and because of their design, they can overheat and explode, causing damage to the user's face, hands, or other parts of the body. In fact, in some cases, these injuries, I'm sorry to say, have even led to death. Vape explosions have also caused fires, endangering more than just the person using the device. Claims have been made that vaping devices are even more dangerous than other products like cell phones because they have a heating element and a cylindrical design which can cause the battery to shoot out when overheated, just like a rocket or a bullet. Now, according to one study, at least 2,035 e-cigarette explosions occurred in the United States. That's just from 2015 to 2017, causing things like burns, broken jaws, and I'm sorry to say, several deaths.
Wow. It's hard to believe a product with those risk factors is allowed to be on the market. Does the FDA regulate e-cigarette products?
Yes, Tony, thankfully they do, or they're trying to, and they've taken some action, but many people feel it's not enough. In August 2016, the FDA finalized its first rules regarding e-cigarettes and vaping devices, covering device parts and batteries used in the devices. Unfortunately, it would appear, based on the problems that have occurred since then, that those regulations have fallen short of really protecting the public. The FDA also announced a campaign in September of 2018 to warn children about the potential dangers of using e-cigarettes. Another action the FDA has taken is a surprise inspection of Joule's San Francisco headquarters, collecting thousands of documents related to the company's marketing efforts, which led to Joule shutting down its Facebook and Instagram accounts. Finally.
Wow. Dr. Wendy, with all those problems, I'm thinking there are a number of legal actions being taken, right?
Oh, there certainly are, Tony. According to one source, more than 120 vape battery explosion lawsuits were filed in 2017 alone, and many more lawsuits have been filed since. In 2 of these battery explosion suits, settlements and verdicts of $1.9 and $2 million were awarded. Other lawsuits filed claim the e-cigarette company Joule used false advertising and predatory marketing practices to sell their products, which contain highly addictive concentrations of nicotine. The claims against Joule also state the products are not only addictive, but they are more addictive than any other brands of e-cigarettes and vapes. Many of these lawsuits are in the courts right now.
So, Dr. Wendy, if a viewer has suffered an injury or feels they have a legal claim due to Joule or other e-cigarettes or vaping devices, tell us about the damages that they may be entitled to.
Sure, Tony. Well, although each case is different, monetary damages can be awarded for money spent on defective devices, flavor pods, and other supplies and accessories in the case of a problem with the device. In the case of injury, medical treatment, including emergency care, surgery, prescriptions, physical or occupational therapy, addiction rehabilitation, and mental therapy could also be awarded. In addition, compensation for loss of income, pain and suffering, including physical, mental, and emotional anguish, can also be claimed. In some cases, punitive damages can be awarded to punish the company for making and distributing a dangerous product.
So in cases like this, how does the legal process typically work?
The legal process generally involves a free consultation with an attorney where the legal steps for their case are explained. After that, research is done to establish the damages that are being claimed and how the product caused those damages. The next step is for the plaintiff's law firm to file a claim or lawsuit against the manufacturer or distributor of the product. In many instances, these cases are settled prior to going to trial, but each case is different in that regard.
Wendy, the information you're sharing today on injuries our viewers may be suffering after using Joule or other e-cigarettes or vaping devices has to be of concern to them. So let's take a moment now to let our viewers know how they can reach our helpline where any immediate concerns they may have can be addressed. We'll be right back.
Are you 40 years or younger and use the Joule vaping device and suffered from nicotine addiction, nicotine poisoning, seizures, a stroke, heart or lung problems, or mental health problems? You may be entitled to compensation. The Joule vaping device contains a potent and highly addictive form of nicotine that can lead to severe nicotine addiction and other health problems. The Joule company used sophisticated marketing to target minors and adults, which has led to a national vaping epidemic. If you're 40 years old or younger and use the Joule vaping device and suffer nicotine addiction, nicotine poisoning, seizures, a stroke, heart or lung problems, or mental health problems, you may be entitled to compensation. To find out your rights and see if you may have a claim against Joule for compensation, please call the number on your screen now. Time may be limited to file a claim, so call for more information and a free case review.
Welcome back to our program. For those viewers who are just joining us, I'm Tony Noakes, and with me today is Dr. Wendy Walsh. Our program today is focused on a consumer product that initially was thought to be an answer for smokers concerned about long-term health impact of inhaling dangerous chemicals found in conventional cigarettes. The reality, it turns out, may be very different, with the use of Joule and other electronic and e-cigarettes and vaping devices becoming a subject of increasing controversy related to health concerns, especially given the growing use by teens. So, Dr. Wendy, what can you tell us about e-cigarettes and the potential danger they present?
Well, Tony, e-cigarettes, brands like Joule, have gained in popularity over the past 10 years. In fact, the market for e-cigarettes is so strong that Marlboro maker Altria has made a $12.8 billion investment in Joule, the most prominent manufacturer of the product. Now, 10 years is a relatively short period of time since the product's introduction, so researchers have yet to determine with clear certainty the long-term health impact of e-cigarettes and vaping devices. But there are serious concerns our viewers should be aware of. Concerns, for instance, about nicotine addiction.